there's an escape route just to the right or just to the left, or a little modification, and the person says, no, I'm just going to keep doing this thing, smashing my face against the window until I die.
Alarm clock in the morning? Are you just like, oh my gosh, snooze, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I can't take it? And then even then when you have to get up, are you like dragging yourself out of bed? It's not supposed to be like that. That is a sign
and
that
the one thing to
something's
be very
not
aware
right.
of is diagnosis. When you actually look at what that word is, first of all, it has die in it. And the next word that's hidden in there is gnosis. So this inner knowing.
Because that's how it happens.
Wisdom
the
that
change from one reality tunnel to another is rapid.
We have ancient stories that are stored in our salt, and those stories are constantly reaffirmed.
I don't
we have
care
ancient
what it
stories
is.
that are.
I trust Heidi and Thaddeus, but
Your
I trust
modern
Heidi
work
and
life
Thaddeus.
is designed to keep you busy, have you eating foods that make you feel tired, lethargic, and give you just enough energy to feed it to the monster corporation. We're kept moderately sheltered and addictively entertained, and of course passively obedient enough to keep doing it. Do you long for something more but don't know where to start? These corporate escape artists have broken free from the ordinary. They walk unfrequented paths. They break pattern, and they've broken free. Fix your finances, hack your health, and unlearn the lies keeping you stuck in the matrix. Welcome to the Corporate Escape Artists Podcast. Welcome to another day in the Matrix. We are here on location today at Hudson Spine and Health in Hudson, Wisconsin, with the very Dr. Travis Johnson, the owner of this space. My co-host Heidi couldn't make it today. She's in bed under the weather, unfortunately, and she's very upset that she could not make it. We all wish her a speedy recovery. Now, we're podcasting today with Dr. Travis for two huge reasons. Number one, we all need a team around us to help with our health and wellness, but also finance and mindset. Sometimes I kind of like eschew the term health because it has the word hell in it. And I'm like, it's really wellness. Like, we want to be well, we want to feel amazing, and we don't want to have to think about any of that other stuff. We also should all by now recognize that one authority figure telling us what to do is based on old programming. It's a way that we just don't do things anymore. That's the way of the past. And be that one authority figure, your boss at work, or a medical doctor telling you what you have to do because of their standard of care that tells them what they have to do. We don't want that model anymore. I am in charge of me, and I want a trusted set. That means more than one, a trusted set of experts around me to maintain absolutely optimal health. Basically, I just want to cut through all the bullshit and I want to thrive. And I want people around me that are going to help me. I have my best interest in mind more than anyone else. And therefore, I can tap these experts. I can ask them how to get the health that I need in that moment rather than wait for someone to tell me what to do. And Dr. Travis is one of those carefully selected experts on my team. And today you're going to find out why. Now, number two reason why we're podcasting today with Dr. Travis. Personally, I have never had back problems ever. And while Dr. Travis is a chiropractor, he is on my team because of how he has actually helped me, even without back problems. So back in 2004, this is like 20 years ago now, I was convinced when I lived in Michigan to go to a chiropractor. And it wasn't because I had back pain or neck pain or anything like that. It was like, you should go to a chiropractor for overall health, and they keep you healthy. Like, their goal is to keep you optimally healthy. And I thought, that's amazing. So I went and I bought this wellness package, and the chiro, convinced me that they were going to make me better and keep me at top peak health or wellness. And what actually ended up happening is the chiropractor spent no more than 5 minutes with me at any one session, including the very beginning session. He cracked my back on this table in the same exact way every time. Just I came in, I laid down, he cracked my lower back, he looked at my neck, he did something else, and I went out the door, and that was it every single time. He didn't ask me any questions, and he never did anything different. And guess what? After 2 months, my back started hurting. It was insane. And I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So I gave up $1,000 of my package, and I never went back. And within about 3 months after that, my back pain went away, and it never came back, and I never went back to a chiropractor. Well, 19 years later, I started working with Travis, and he does not do, when I come in, like a back cracking session. He spends 20 to 30 minutes with me every time. He's actually upgrading my health and working with me, and it's a totally unique experience what he does. He's the type of professional that everybody needs on their team. He's curious, hardworking, and he wants to help. And by the way, he's really good. So if you want to break free, you need 3 things: mindset, a financial plan, and a wellness plan. With that, welcome, Dr. Travis. And why don't you start off by telling everyone how to find you and how they might get in contact with you?
All right. Yeah, appreciate that, yes. I'm really happy to be here. You can find me at hudsonspineandhealth.com. That's the website. Definitely need to do a little website upgrade coming soon because we got some new equipment coming in. You can also, if you want to send me an email, you can do hudsonspineandhealth@gmail.com. Or give us a call, and you can talk to me or the front desk, 715-808-0723. We're based out of Hudson, Wisconsin.
Awesome. Well, so glad you're here today. And why don't you start out by telling us about your background and you don't work a corporate job.
Nope.
You're doing something completely different. So why do you do what you do, and why does it matter?
Absolutely. So let me just start with a little bit of background where I came from. I'm the first chiropractor in my family. I went to the chiropractor when I was a kid, when I would fall off the tree and things like that. But I never really was, thinking I was going to become a chiropractor. Eventually moved into undergrad school, learned movement studies, got a bachelor in that. Wanted to be a PT, decided that wasn't my route either. Visited a chiropractic school, blew my mind. Chiropractic school basically convinced me that your body actually has an amazing ability to heal itself. And I've never heard that concept before. And so that just really resonated with me. Started chiropractic school from Northwestern Health Sciences University, graduated 2018. And then this kind of rolls into the why I did not become like a corporate job. Or even you could just say it even just working under a chiropractor, let's put it that way, because that's kind of how the route goes for chiropractors. Either you start your own business or you work for somebody else. You could work for a franchise as well. That's the other option. But basically, it was really interesting because in chiropractic school, they only have maybe a couple business classes that kind of help you or guide you towards, a success in chiropractic. And it was really interesting because there was this program at school, okay? And they would cater to this program at the school as like a core curriculum class. And so I was like, oh, that sounds really easy and I could do that. So I ended up going forward with program, which is basically a mentorship program under an existing chiro. Pretty low pay in the beginning, salary. So, you're working 6, maybe even 7 days a week and, doing the exact type of chiropractic that you described. High volume, quick in and out type of adjustments, revolving door, right? And that to me felt like I was a robot. That's the corporate style of chiropractic. That's what The Joint does. That's a big franchise in the United States. That's what a lot of these chiropractic clinics are doing. That's what they teach you in school. Okay, they teach you the standard chiropractic adjustment, which isn't inherently bad in itself, but it's where they fall short is the actual care of the patient versus what the patient wants versus business and, business success. And so I did that for 2.5 years of, I'm seeing a bunch of people. I'm adjusting 50 to 60 patients a day. I spend my weekends at convention centers trying to get more new patients. Like, your life is literally chiropractic and just treating people all day long. And that felt kind of overwhelming. I felt like I was burning out, and I was only 2 years into my practice. And I realized I didn't want to do that anymore. My shoulder started hurting, and I was young and healthy, right? So like, this doesn't make sense. So that was when I decided that I needed to do something different. Now, keep in mind, I was doing what I would consider traditional chiropractic, called diversified technique. But I also was doing this technique that I do, this ABC technique, on the side. And I would do it in this back room where nobody could see me, because it would disrupt the flow of the business, right? So
what is it about? So first of all,
yep.
Nobody probably knows what ABC means.
Okay.
So we'll get to that in a sec. And explain, like, so you're at this chiropractic office, you're getting paid, you're
Yep.
seeing a lot of patients,
Yep.
you're working a ton of hours. So you're learning the techniques that they want you to be using. And supposedly, like, they're helping people, right? Or people wouldn't keep coming, it seems like. But you've learned this new chiropractic technique that it seems like very few other people know about or use. I don't know if that's accurate, but I've never heard of it before. And you've got to do it in this back room where the other chiros don't know what you're doing. And for some reason, people keep coming back because that must be helping them more than what was happening before. So, like, how did you, like, make up your mind to learn this new technique? So tell people what the technique is, and then how did you decide you were going to learn this, and what gave you the permission, like, in your own mind, to start, like, trying it out on people when you really weren't supposed to be? And I mean, obviously it was super successful in the end, but, like, that's really hard for a lot of people to do something different and to learn something outside the norm and then start applying it to people to help them when their workplace doesn't really condone that.
Yeah. So I actually first got introduced to ABC. So ABC stands for Advanced Biostructural Correction. It is a niche chiropractic technique that is kind of underground. It was developed by this guy, Jesse Jukowitz. I think he was an engineer by trade, and then he went to chiropractic school, and he basically questioned all of the treatments, all of the professors, and nobody liked him because he questioned the narrative, right? This is our curriculum. This is how it is. Don't question us, kind of thing. And so I got introduced from this technique from a colleague, a friend, chiropractic student that I graduated with. And we were in our 10th trimester, so last trimester of chiropractic school. And he's like, hey, I found this new technique. We just got done out of this activator class, which is like the little clicker that people may have experienced before. And he gave me one ABC adjustment, and it was like lights on. I instantly knew that was what my body needed. Okay. I've been getting practiced on for years with regular chiropractic. Never did I feel that good after one treatment, because basically of how it's performed. Okay. And we can get into like the actual depths of like what exactly is being done with ABC, but let me go forward with like fast forward. So we started learning this technique. We literally just practiced with each other. Okay. So we ended up going to the seminar. We found a guy up in Fergus Falls, Minnesota. He's a master ABC practitioner. So he's like one of the higher level ABC practitioners, so can teach us how to do the technique. Went through a weekend seminar there. Learned the protocol. We started practicing on each other. We're getting great results. I think my friend had like multiple sclerosis, and he was literally treating his multiple sclerosis with this technique. Like, he was getting way good results with this.
So how is he getting adjusted?
From me.
From you. Oh,
so
yeah.
we're just adjusting each other basically. So there was 3 of us total, just at the school, and we were just adjusting each other, practicing on each other, trying to get good with it. So then, eventually we graduated, we stepped our own ways. He's going down to Arizona to start his own practice, and then I stayed here, and then I got this job, okay, at this clinic, and I got the job because I wanted, I got to make money right away after school. I wasn't confident enough to like start my own business right away, but I knew that this technique was what I wanted to do. It was just unique, and I wanted to test it on, I want to test it on the population, right? Like, is it just me that's getting this benefit, or are other people going to get this benefit too? So after a while, I talked to my boss. I said, hey, I'm really passionate about this technique. Please let me perform this just under the ground, like on the side, for patients that specifically I think need this the most. So I'm kind of like picking and choosing which ones get diversified adjustments and which ones would get ABC adjustment. And morally, I didn't feel good about that, but I had a job to do, right? I had to sell packages, and the treatment did take longer, and it had to be hidden because we had an open adjusting kind of floor. So if I'm doing a completely different technique and somebody else is waiting for their adjustment, they're like, well, what is he doing? They would question, right? And then it gets all confusing. So I was allowed 15 patients total to do this technique on, no more. And I maxed that out in months. And the change that I saw in the ABC patients versus my diversified patients was just night and day. It was incredibly different. But again, these patients that I personally picked for ABC had significant issues. And these were like very neurologically degenerative type issues, or like surgery or severe scoliosis, like things that I know ABC is specifically for, treating that issue, not just a general low back pain or neck pain. So maybe it was skewed a little bit because these people had a lot to gain because they're already in such a harsh position. But, once you get their testimonials around, people start talking, the office starts talking, they want to get treated. I started kind of changing everybody's mind there. Again, I'm ruffling feathers with the clinic because that's not the protocol. That's not the business model that we have currently there. So long story short, did that for 2.5 years there, built a pretty big, decent following in ABC treatments only there. And, eventually I started realizing my worth, and I started realizing that I have something very unique. And I personally can't withhold this technique from a certain amount of people. If these 15 individuals had such a profound experience, we need to quadruple this number, right? And I wasn't going to do that where I was. So that was the telltale sign. I need to shift. I need to start my own thing. I need to have control over the technique that I do. I need to have, complete freedom over just the business that I wanted to promote. And that's kind of where I started my initial practice, just in a little 9x11 room. And you were there, Thaddeus. You seen that little room that I was treating on, and that did good to me. But it's just a blessing to be where I'm at today.
Yeah, well, now you've got your own space. There's like multiple rooms here. There's a ridiculous amount of therapies here. I mean, this is one of the things that attracted me to you, Travis, is like, I mean, I was completely out of chiropractic. So my wife, Heidi, who's podcast host with me, she was going to chiropractic, and I went with her, and I saw what they did, and it was just like, come in, crack back, leave. They didn't ask her any questions. It was an open environment. It took a couple seconds and she was out the door. And I'm like, you still have neck and back pain and it's never changed. Like, you come home from the chiropractor and it feels a little bit better. And then like next week you have to go again because it's worse. And I don't want to sign up for that. So again, this was, 5 years ago. And I'm like, I'm not signing up for any of that. And then I met Travis. So you and I met because Like, I think you probably followed me on Instagram.
Yeah.
So we kind of knew each other on Instagram a little bit, but like we hadn't ever talked or like communicated. And Travis came to my house to buy a chainsaw that I was selling. So I had this electric chainsaw, and like I got in over my head. So I'm like, I'm going to have a wood fireplace, a wood stove. I needed a chainsaw. I bought an electric one. I'm like, battery powered chainsaw seems like a really good way to go. It's quiet. It's super clean. Like, I don't have to worry about fixing it all the time with like spark plugs and gas and mixing the oil. And I'm like, this thing is legit. So, and it sawed through logs like crazy. And so then all of a sudden with a wood stove, you have to go through like cords and cords of wood. And I had all these trees in my backyard to saw up. And some of them were like 3 feet, 4 feet thick. And it would only cut through like maybe 5 logs before I had to recharge it. And I'm like, man, this is not the thing that I need for this. So I maybe sawed 6 logs and I put it up for sale, and I met Travis and we were talking, and he's like, you said to me like, hey, I've got this clinic downtown. Like, you should come check it out, because I have all this other stuff, not just chiropractic. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. I think it would sound interesting. And then the more I thought about it, and I was like, Heidi, we should go. We should check this out. And we came to see Dr. Travis. And I've been to a lot of chiropractors. I've only ever seen one chiropractor personally, but I've been to a lot of offices, and none of them ever resonated where I wanted to sign up. And after seeing Dr. Travis for the first session, I was like, I saw Heidi and she went through a session. I'm like, I want that. Like, I want to do that too. So like I signed up, and ever since, like I said, I had no back pain. I did end up deadlifting way too much, and I hurt my hip. And seeing Dr. Travis right after that, like I've done this twice now. I hurt my hip deadlifting. So I was picking up too much weight, and my hip the next day hurt so bad I couldn't sleep very well. And it would go on for like 3 days before it would get better. So the next time it happened, I saw Travis, and it went away immediately after and never came back. Like, that was the thing. Like, it didn't just reappear 2 days later and then I had to get adjusted again. So number one, his adjustments using this ABC technique are way different than anything I've ever seen, anything I've ever experienced, and anything my wife has ever experienced. But beyond that, Travis, you have like all this other stuff here. Like, you don't just limit yourself to one technique with your patients. You're like, I mean, what I get the sense from you is you get to know the patient and you start to help them figure out what they need. And you have all this stuff here to support them. So while they come in and see you, and you're kind of gauging, what do you need today? What's going to be most beneficial to you as the patient? And I mean, you must have like 5 rooms here full of equipment, between like different lights and intense therapies from like, I would name them all, and I know the names of them all, but I don't want to give away a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about. But I mean, there's Flowpresso, there's red lights, there's Vibe plates, there's so many more things, from the super spiritual, where you're working with a partner, Julie, who does like a ton of spiritual work, to like the super sciencey stuff. And it supports like anything anybody needs. So, I mean, ABC, like, we're going to move on to all these other techniques that you have here and all these other things that could be super helpful for people to know about.
Yep.
But what makes ABC so different that like I resonated right away? I was like, oh my God, I want you to do that to me.
Yep.
Whereas like most chiropractic, I'm like, I don't really want that at all unless I was like in severe pain.
Yeah.
So like, why do you think ABC is so different?
Okay, there's really 3 big ones. Okay, so number 1 is the direction of the adjustment. Okay, typically when you go to a chiropractor, not all of them, they'll have you lay face down, and they're going to push on your spine from behind. Okay, so they're going to do what we call a posterior to anterior adjustment. So they're pushing those bones, those vertebrae, down towards the table, right? So they're pushing those bones forward, okay? Now, ABC would say, instead of pushing those bones forward, because as a society, we're all hunched forward. Our heads are forward, our shoulders are forward, our bodies are forward. We sit all the time. We instead want to push those bones up and back, okay? And the reason for that is twofold: center of gravity. Gravity comes straight down. So anytime that those bones are translated forward, it's just a lever system. Your body's going to tense up to try to pull those bones back up, upright, right? We're humans. We're meant to be on 2 feet. We're meant to stand up tall, okay? Breathing, heart health, digestion, all that's interrelated.
So all that heart health, lungs, like they depend on your body being in an up. Me included. Like I have a corporate job that I work, 8 hours a day plus, and then I go and work at my entrepreneur job, and I'm in front of a computer all day long. My head is forward and down.
Yep.
My shoulders are coming forward because I've got to reach for the mouse and the keyboard tray, and I'm sitting in a chair the whole time. So what you're saying though is like traditional chiropractic often for people in my type of a position is not necessarily pulling the structure of our body to where it needs to be because it's pushing it more forward, which is what we don't want. Is that?
Yep, pretty much. So in a nutshell, yes. What they're doing is they're trying to find the restrictions. And that's how we're trained. You feel joint restrictions, okay? And you're trying to just move bones, move those cracks, the pops, the joint. That's the gas releasing from the joint, right? Now the problem with that is, and this is where you'll feel temporary relief from the adjustment, right? You'll feel better because it moves better, okay? But you're not correcting the root issue, okay? So the problem just goes somewhere else. So you're just constantly cracking the exact same spot every time, thinking that, oh, we just got to keep moving that joint. But no, that's what we call a secondary subluxation, okay? A secondary issue instead of the primary, which is like the root cause of an issue. So what I'm doing with the ABC is identifying which bone in the spine is actually the trouble bone. So it's specific, right? So I'm testing each bone in your spine, and then your body will tell me which bone that I need to adjust. So I'm not just guessing. Your body tells me which one to adjust. So I'm not making the decision. And if you think about it, our bodies are incredibly intelligent, and your own body knows itself better than anybody else, any doctor. So if you listen to the body really well, you can really, and that's where my skill is just understanding how to read a body position or reaction or reflex, and then correct that specific spot. And then the body will correct and what we call unwind over time as you get these treatments.
This is what fascinated me is like everything Travis just said, like your body knows where it is stopped, bound up, or it needs support, right? Your body knows. Your brain consciously might not know that. So the one thing that Travis does that I've not seen anyone else do except some of my friends that are naturopaths that have done muscle testing. And when you get really good at muscle testing, like they can do it so quick. Travis does testing of your own body to figure out what needs to be adjusted before he adjusts it. So he's not even adjusting the same things every single time because your body, it might not need that, or it might, depending on what your body tells him. So like the one thing that kind of came to me in this conversation, Travis, is like, I want to leave the modern medical system because it treats symptoms, not root cause. And it covers up those symptoms by giving you typically pharmaceutical-based medications that are from the petroleum chemical industry. So the chemical and petroleum industry used to be one. So my grandfather went to Lehigh University in Pennsylvania. He was born in like the 1920s. And he got a degree in petroleum engineering. So these petroleum engineers were like, how can we make more use of this stuff from the ground? And it became the American Medical Association's pharmaceutical industry. So the pharmaceutical industry fed the medical association with these synthetic chemical drugs, and they covered up symptoms but never got to the root cause. So then chiropractic is like way more outside the mainstream. They're supposed to be addressing the root cause, but now you're telling me, Travis, that a lot of the chiropractic teachings, or at least some of the chiropractic teachings, are also still covering up symptoms and not treating necessarily the root cause. And that even within chiropractic, like there are these other ways of listening to the body even more than they already do.
Correct. And I think chiropractic philosophy as a whole, everybody's pretty much on the same board that the body has this innate intelligence to naturally and to heal itself, right? Self-regulating, self-healing body, which I think almost all chiropractors will agree on that. The technique you're going to find a huge variation in the technique. I don't believe that, everybody requires the exact same chiropractic technique. I don't believe that. I think certain techniques are better than others for certain people. So there will be some experimenting that will need to be done to know, like, if you're the individual that would benefit from this or that. But I wanted to come back to the second point of the ABC stuff too, because it is a biomechanical postural treatment. Okay, so it really is going to focus on posture. The other part that's missing, and this is a huge part that's missing from school, chiropractic school and understanding, is the fascial connections of the spine. Okay, so ABC is not addressing just bones. Okay, ABC is addressing the actual fascial tissue.
So what is fascia?
Okay, fascia, in a nutshell, is a connective tissue that is innervated by your nervous system that weaves in and out of every tissue in your body. Bones, your cells, your muscle, your ligaments, all that's connected to this fascial connective tissue. Now we have fascial tissue that's like right underneath our skin, but we also have fascial tissue that's deep in our brain and spinal cord. And that is what ABC is focusing on releasing. So now we're talking about central nervous system help. Okay, so meninges, or what we would consider a meningeal release, is the treatment that we would do to perform this tension within the brain and spinal cord. That is probably the most profound treatment that ABC can perform is this deep meningeal release. And what exactly is it doing? It's breaking up scar tissue that's stuck in the spinal canal itself. So as we go through life and we have these physical traumas and these emotional traumas and these chemical traumas, your body, responds pretty similar to all three of those. You don't have to just have a car accident and create scar tissue in your body. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to break up these, what we call meningeal adhesions, that are stuck within the spinal cord that are gripping on the bone of the inside of that spinal canal. So I do the test, and it'll tell me where it is, front, back, or side of the spine. And then I'm going to put you through this deep spinal stretch to break up that scar tissue. Now, it's not painful. There's actually no actual sense to the actual release. It's more of think of it like a deep stretch. But that will actually take a lot of the tension out of the entire spine, not just somewhere specifically, so that your brain, spinal cord, the whole fascial system can then relax. Okay. This is a really kind of cool test you can do. What you can do is you pinch the shirt behind you right now. You're sitting, standing, just pinch the shirt behind you. And then go ahead and just lean forward and feel what happens to your shirt. Tightens up, right?
It's tight.
Yep. And then what happens if you lean back?
Loosens.
It loosens. That's exactly how this meninge tissue works. Okay. So the further that we are forward or in this kind of fetal type position, like most of us sitting, driving, going to work, going to the couch at home, we're in that position all the time. You're constantly in tension there, right? And that is actually pulling on your central nervous system, brain, spinal cord. It gives you all these rampant symptoms. So ABC is pulling you back. We're putting slack into that spinal cord, into that fascial tissue. Now your muscles can relax. We should be able to sit and stand with zero muscular effort. Why? Conserving your energy. Why would you want to be wasting energy just to sit? Makes no sense, right? So being biomechanically stable and aligned, along with having less tension in your body, correlates to overall health and wellness.
And this is what blew me away is when Travis was telling me what we're doing is stretching. He's not cracking your back. He's we're going to stretch you in these different postures than you've probably ever been in your life. And trust me, one of the things that Travis did to me was a little like scary at first, but it's literally just a stretch. Like, I mean, he took like these car seat belts and started strapping me down to a table, and then he lifted my feet up, and so my feet were above my head. Like if you put your feet up against a wall and you're in this L position, I was like tied up there essentially. And then he started stretching my upper body to the side towards my feet. It was a really strange way of moving, and I've never even seen anyone do that before, but it was a stretch. Like I was thinking about it in my mind of like, relax my body, like be really chill. So like I can allow the stretch rather than like most chiropractic, I'm not told to do anything, but here I'm like, oh my God, I have to relax. And I want to go as deep in the stretch as I can, because the way Dr. Travis explained it is like, we're breaking up these adhesions. And I'm like, oh, when I think about it, now that you told me like what to think about, and I don't even know if you did that consciously, but when I'm thinking now, oh, we're breaking up adhesions, that those adhesions were created through traumas, whether it was the trauma of repetitive motion of sitting at a desk and playing with a mouse, whether it was a trauma of like being in a car accident or an emotional trauma, like that trauma created a knot essentially, or a posture that has now stuck to like some of the bones, the structure of my body. And to break that adhesion up is what's going to allow my body to both relax, but get into a better posture in general. And with all that in my mind, I'm like, oh, I totally get what we're doing here. Even if my back doesn't hurt, I'm sure I've got trauma and adhesions. So I'm not going to Dr. Travis to make my back feel better because it feels fine. I'm breaking up trauma and adhesions that could be causing any sort of health, either now or down the road, that would help me, move into a declination state. I'd be declining because these adhesions are blockages. And essentially, as we remove those, I have a way better chance going into my 50s and 60s with optimal health than I would if I just did nothing, especially for me. Gosh, I'm trying to think now. I've been working since 1998 at a computer, all the way till now. The year is 2024. It's been like almost 26 years. That's crazy that I've been sitting down in front of a computer and creating this posture over and over again for the majority of my day. Is not what the human body was designed to do.
No. And that's one of the foundations for ABC is sitting, standing, and sleeping. Those are the positions that you find almost everybody in. We have to walk, we have to stand. We're forced to sit, even though we're not designed to sit. Society tells us we have to sit in the airplanes, we have to sit in the car. Somebody needs to invent something different.
Dude, I work, my corporate job right now is I work for a furniture manufacturing company.
There you go.
And it's like, we're not supposed to sit. And I'm like, I think it's so crazy because working for the furniture company, so I read these books on like, what is the history of the chair? Like we invented ergonomic furniture because people are sitting so much and they're hurting themselves by sitting. You can't stand in one position all day, like on a factory line and be healthy, but you also can't sit in a chair all day and be healthy. So I'm like reading the history of the chair and like we invented ergonomic seating, but still like the human body, if you look at like all human culture before like the 1800s, maybe even going a little further back, like there weren't chairs. They didn't exist. Like people squatted, people sat on the ground, people sat on rocks. Like we sat in these different postures and positions that were never the same. But today, whether you're in your car, your airplane, you're waiting for a bus, you're at the bus stop, you're at your work, it doesn't matter where you are. You're at home, you're in the same posture, and the human body should not be in that posture almost ever. It's crazy.
The science is out that sitting has a myriad of issues related to health. I'm sure maybe you've heard the sitting is the new smoking, right? Because it really is detrimental to your health when you're doing it consistently for years and years and years. So sleeping is another big one too, because people don't realize their sleeping posture, right? So posture is really just a body position. What is your body position? So, is your pillow too big? Is it pillow too small? Is your mattress too soft? Is it too firm?
So, okay, this is great because like I've listened to chiropractors on podcasts before and I'm one of those people, like I walk by someone who I know is a chiropractor. Like sometimes I'm at the airport, right? And I see those chiropractors adjusting people and like, I adjust my posture. I'm like, oh man, I better stand up straight. So like, I'm already knowing, like I don't stand up straight all the time. So, but I've heard these chiropractors on podcasts say, you have to sleep on your stomach. And then I've heard another chiropractor say like, you have to sleep on your back. And then I've heard another one say, you have to sleep on your side. And all three of those chiropractors were on like huge podcasts, like really big name podcasts. And so at first I'm like, oh my God, like I don't sleep on my stomach. Should I be? And like, what am I doing to myself? Am I hurting myself? So Travis, like, how should I be sleeping? No one, I've never even, like, I've thought about it because I've heard so many conflicting messages.
Short answer, sleep on your side. You can sleep on your right side. And the big reason for that is if you sleep on your back, a lot of times people have nose breathing issues. They snore. But if you sleep on your side, you're a less likely chance to have any kind of apnea or sleep problems like during like actual breathing when you're sleeping. Sleeping on your stomach, absolutely no. You have to turn your neck to the side if you're on your stomach. So you add a pillow onto that too. Now you're putting your head and your neck in rotation and extension, which is like a big no-no for your neck. But ABC actually makes a pillow that's specific for side sleeping. So when I test you for like a pillow size, we're gonna test you on your side. If you must sleep on your back, let's say you have a really bad shoulder problem or something like that, we can test you. But honestly, like you barely need a pillow at all if you sleep on your back, because again, you don't want your head forward, right? You want your head neutral at all times. And the reason for that, think of your spinal cord like a garden hose. If you are kinking that garden hose when you sleep, you are reducing the amount of oxygen and nutrients and regenerative cleansing abilities that your brain goes through when you sleep. So this is the whole glymphatic system, okay? So that's why magnesium's so good to go to sleep, because again, you're flooding that brain with that magnesium, especially if you're doing that magnesium threonate stuff. But
so there's different forms of magnesium, and I know Travis knows this, but not everyone does. Like there's at least 5 different forms of magnesium, and they target different tissues in the body. So all magnesium is not the same, and most magnesium sold over the counter, like in your regular drugstore, like Walgreens, isn't even bioavailable at all. It's like magnesium oxide or magnesium hydroxide, and you don't want that. So magnesium threonate actually passes the blood-brain barrier. So first of all, I just want to say, like, I sleep on my side and I sleep on my right side. It's kind of interesting.
Wow, okay.
So, and
me too.
so I'm glad, like, I feel like this is the first chiropractor I've ever heard give a podcast that had a good answer for why, and an answer that makes sense from human history. Because, so I studied a lot of primal peoples, because like I have this business that I originally founded to teach people called Primalhacker. And through there, I'm like, how did primal people sleep? Because they didn't sleep in beds. They slept on the ground or on furs.
Rocks.
And I mean, legit, like they slept on rocks, and their bodies had to adapt to these hard things, and they all slept on their sides. So it was like, So people are telling me like, you shouldn't, at least these other chiropractors that I've heard on podcasts. And I'm always thinking like, how do I train myself to sleep on my back? And I did notice when I was sleeping on my back, trying to like do it right, that I don't snore. Like I never snore, but when I forced myself to sleep on my back, as I was starting to fall asleep, I would catch myself snoring and wake myself up. And I'm like, whoa, my mouth is totally opening. So then I'm like, maybe I should tape my mouth. And that's another thing we might talk about, but tape my mouth when I sleep, and then I'm forced to breathe through my nose. And so I gave that all up, and I'm more comfortable, and I get better sleep, and I do track my sleep. I get way better sleep when I sleep on my side. Yep. So it's good to hear like I might be doing it right.
My wife and I went down to Belize years ago. I proposed to her down in Belize, and we went to this Guatemalan Mayan temple, ancient ruins. And then they showed us where they slept, their beds. And it was literally like a granite bed. And then for their pillow was just an elevated granite higher rock where they slept their head.
Oh my gosh.
So that tells you that it's not you don't want a super soft, fluffy bed. You want support, and support isn't supposed to be super comfy. Okay. So that's a big issue. Again, it's another podcast on how comfortable we all are, right? But basically, and these ABC pillows aren't the softest, fluffiest, featheriest pillows either, but they're supposed to support your head and hold it in that position. Same with your bed. It should be firm. You should not be sinking in your bed, because if you're sinking, now your hips are lower, your spine's in this scoliotic position, and so now your whole spine's this S curve as you sleep. So soft and comfy does not equal healthy.
Oh, this is amazing. This is all stuff that is like super relevant for a lot of people, because most of us are trained like, I want the softest, most feathery like bed ever that I sink into. Same with a pillow. And it sounds like you'd be doing your body a disservice to do that. And to the point where like, I think your body now, I think people have some trouble with this, because if you go from like that super soft bed to something really firm, it's uncomfortable. Like when I was going through a divorce with my ex-wife, like I slept on the floor in the spare bedroom because I didn't have a spare bed. Honestly, like I had a bed for my kids, but not for me. So I slept on the floor. And I tell you what, like the first week was pretty miserable, but after the first week, I slept so good on the floor. And I was like, you can get used to this. And like, it's actually pretty comfortable when your body adjusts. And I will also say that my brother, he's only a year and a half younger than me, and he went to China to this martial arts school. And he like traveled to the Wudong Mountains and like went up, and he stayed there for a month, and they gave him a 1/2-inch sheet of plywood to sleep on in his room. And he said it was so uncomfortable for the first few days. And then he loved it so much that when he moved back to the States, he got rid of his bed and bought a 1/2-inch sheet of plywood. To this day, he sleeps on a sheet of plywood with like this super thin cloth on the top of it. And I'm like, how, Zach, do you do that? He's like, no, I'm telling you, it is so comfortable.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes. So that's so funny, because it honestly should be the new trend for our sleeping bed, is these firm, stiff mattresses. Again, ABC makes their own. They jumped on top of this. The Amish actually make these for them, which is really cool, this connection with the Amish and the ABC. But they create all the chairs that are ergonomically correct. They create these beds that are firm, made out of latex, and they create these pillows. So there's a whole setup you can do with this firm frame and this firm pad and firm, and it really makes a difference. And you mentioned like it's not super comfortable in the beginning. No, it's not gonna be. You're not used to this, right? Like anything, you're not used to this diet, not used to this exercise. Your body has to adapt to it. Go from wearing full orthotic shoes to barefoot shoes and see how good your feet feel, right? Well, you are building muscles in your feet. It's going to take a little bit to be sore until you start feeling the benefits, right? So all of this is transition. ABC treatment, it's going to be a transition. Even if you've been adjusted a million times from the other treatments, you go through this treatment, we have to start all over, okay? So it will be a little uncomfortable for the first time. Like anything in life you do for the first time, it's a little uncomfortable, right? But consistency, repetition, good lifestyle, all those things play a role. You will get to the other side, and you'll just be an optimal, upgraded version of yourself. And there's just this kind of rolls into the next topic too. I think we wanted to talk about like how how chiropractic is kind of working its way into this healthcare system. I actually have decided to like pull away from the actual healthcare system in quotations. I do not take insurance for good reason. They limit my ability. They decide what I get charged and pay for my treatments, regardless of how long I take for a treatment. But this is the big, I guess, change that I've heard from my patients versus, visiting their medical doctors versus visiting with me, is I actually, look at them in the eyes and show them that I'm listening. Okay, so showing that you have some good bedside manner and that you actually care what that person is saying.
You mean you don't have an iPad in front of you looking down at the iPad? So I'm out of the medical system as well. But just like I recommend to most people on this podcast, like I still have health insurance in case there's a catastrophe.
Mm-hmm.
And once in a while my kids have to go. And I haven't been for a long time. But 2 years ago, my son broke his foot. And the school called me panicking, and you got to take him to the emergency room immediately. His foot's broken, and he's in all this pain. I'm like, okay. So I go to the emergency room where you think the doctor would listen to like what happened. The doctor is looking at the iPad, looking down, not looking at my son, not looking at me, looking at the iPad and like typing stuff in, and then just like walks out of the room, and it's all done electronically. He had no clue. Like he came back in. And he started talking to us while looking at the iPad again about like political stuff. And he was telling me like, I'm this huge like left-wing liberal, this and that. And like, who cares what my position is right now? But for your doctor to come in and start telling that to you, like we didn't connect on any level. And he's looking at his iPad and starting to tell me about left-wing liberal politics that he's into. Like, what just happened here?
Whoa.
So like, I love the fact that for me, I decided I was going to leave and exit the healthcare system. And I knew I needed a group of experts around me because I'm not the expert on everything healthcare. And as soon as I started knowing what I needed, like Travis came into my life and you are amazing. And then I have a medical doctor friend now who also has a practice in town who is way different, doesn't take insurance, of course, and knows what he's doing and talks to people one-on-one, no technology in the way whatsoever. So I love that. And that has to be the way that we go forward.
Yes. People just want to be heard. They just that's half the healing, to be honest, is that people can share what they feel. And literally just you giving me your story gives me way more information than any x-ray, medical records, all that stuff would give me, because those are just numbers, they're biological, data. Okay. But if I can connect with you and like how you're feeling emotionally, maybe this is a PTSD, situation. Perfect example. I have a patient, lost his daughter to a car accident, and she was young, 16 years old, something like that. So he's like dedicated his life to like do talks and share awareness about texting and driving and things like that. In the last year, himself has gotten into 2 car accidents. Okay. And that set him back quite a bit. And I can honestly say it's not just the physical. That's what he's experiencing. And he shared this with me. He's going through PTSD, and that is why he's in pain. And so we're working through how he can get over that PTSD, losing his daughter and him getting in accidents, and it re-triggers this whole cycle. And it's not just simple as I can adjust his back and it's going to get better. His joints feel fine. When I treat him, adjust him, his joints feel healthy and fine, but all his fascia does not. It's super tight, super regarded, can't let go. So that's an instance where like a medical doctor to look at him and be like, well, there's no treatment we can do for PTSD. You can see a therapist, I'll refer you to a therapist. There's just not a lot of options. Nobody understands, that you can do some of these other therapies that can really help with the fascia. But yeah, it comes down to just listen to people's stories, connecting with them. Once you get a really good understanding of like their history, what they're currently going through, what they want as a treatment, and then I'm just guiding them to certain therapies, certain people that can either help them better or start with me, and then we'll see where we can get to. So I think of myself as kind of like a facilitator for some people's healthcare, where I can give, you got to have some control over your life. You definitely have to put some work in while you're with me, right? You cannot put all your problems on me and I just fix them for you. A lot of people think that is the case. So it's a two-way street.
This is like one of the main things of the work that Heidi and I are doing in the world right now. And through this podcast is like, we have to wake up and become adults. Like, if you want to be treated like a child or like a slave, like, go to your medical doctor. And not that all medical doctors are bad, because they're not, but go to your medical doctor and let them tell you what to do, put all your problems on them, get a pharmaceutical that'll numb you out, and you don't have to think about your life anymore. But those of us that are, I like to say, have been awakened. We didn't wake up. We were awakened for a reason. And we want to take ownership and control and become an adult and do things for ourselves and others, and not be told what to do and treated like a little child anymore. So I love that. You have to put in the work, but you also have to have the right experts.
It's sad, actually, because a lot of the patients that I'll see, they're on a ton of medications when they come in here, right? And, I don't have the authority to tell them to get on or off of those medications. But what I can ask them is, how do they feel on those medications? Are you in a really healthy state while you're on those medications? Do you feel vibrant and energized? And nobody feels healthy while they're on them. And then the question is, okay, what has your from a nutrition or exercise or mental health standpoint besides that drug, right? And it's never brought up. Okay, so then that person doesn't know that they should be doing some of these healthy things with maybe the medication to get them to maybe a safe level for whatever it might be. The goal isn't to keep you on those drugs. It's to see if that organ system is an issue or not, right? And that's how they were originally designed, was to treat like an emergency situation. Let's get that blood pressure low right now because it's critical. Not let's keep that blood pressure low for the next 30 years. Yeah, by the way, we don't have a whole lot of studies on what this will happen if you do this for 30 years straight. And when you combine it with this supplement and this other medication, and then, this new blah, 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 right? So the interactions, the biochemical interactions that people are experiencing on a day-to-day basis with the toxins that we're exposed to, the medications that they're on, the stress that they put themselves under, they're chaotic, right? So if we can just simplify that complex situation people are going through on a daily basis, let's just start by getting you into parasympathetic mode, non-stressful fight or flight state, right? People feel like they're getting chased by a cougar all day long, right? So that's where some of these therapies are very, very important, like the grounding, right? Let's just calm your nervous system. The compression, let's just calm the nervous system.
So on that, we're gonna pause here. So that's the end of hour one. And what we're going to do is have Dr. Travis wrap up here on what we've talked through. We've got a few things to talk about. We have a ton of stuff to talk about. We're going to have to do extra podcasts, but we do have a second, I like to say a second hour. It could be a second 30 minutes. It could be a second hour. It could be a second 3 hours on the other side of the membership. And so as we wrap this up, I encourage all of you to join the membership and get the full 2-hour podcasts. But as we wrap up, Travis, like, what type of person, like, who do you want as a client? Like, if we're talking to all these people out there and they're like, is going to a chiropractor right for me? Should I have a chiropractor on my team? Like, what should they look for, and who are the people that need one? And then after you finish that, like, tell everyone again where they can find you.
Okay. So that's a tricky question, because that goes into who do I want to treat, or who I can get to treat, right? And I enjoy treating the whole spectrum. Somebody who has done every therapy and treatment out of the book and nothing's worked. Okay, well then we need to do some things that are a little out of the ordinary, right? And I love treating the person that's extremely healthy, wellness. We just have fun, have conversations. He's a fellow, health nut like myself, and it's an easy treatment, right? He's just here for healthy and stay healthy. So those are easier for me, right? They're already easy to adjust. They're easy to connect with. Life's good, right? And then there's the person that is been struggling for years, 10 out of 10 pain, end of their life. Like they just can't survive another day because they're in excruciating pain. They've been to the Mayo Clinic system. They've been to all the drugs, all the chemotherapies that, they've been to the depths of the dark, right? And then, funny, they actually come in to see light. This individual comes in for red light therapy, and it's an immaculate story, but these would be the individuals that I get the best feeling, I guess, helping, is the people that have been struggling so hard and so deep, and I do something so simple and so non-invasive, and it literally flips their life upside down. So this lady, she came in, she basically got kicked out of the Mayo Clinic. They closed the doors on her. They're like, we have nothing for you, don't come back. That's literally what they told her. And so she had nowhere to go. No chiropractor would treat her. She had bone cancer, or she did have bone cancer. So she had loss of bone in her face and head and things like this. So she's a liability, right? So she came in interested in red light therapy. I heard it helps with pain and inflammation. And, I instantly was like, I think you need a little bit more than just a red light panel. I think you need an actual focused near infrared, high powered LED device. We did literally 3 appointments. Her pain went from a 10 out of 10 daily for 3 years. She couldn't eat anything solid. She has to suck smoothies every day. She couldn't sing at church like she wanted to. She couldn't even talk to her kids. She couldn't speak. It was really hard. Her jaw was just so painful from it was like a bone remineralizer medication she was on. So I did this Firefly treatment on her. 2 sessions, pain went from 10 to 3 in 2 sessions. And then on the 3rd session, she comes back. She has a softball size, goiter. Her throat was just swollen, full of lymph tissue is what it was, just fluid. And she was freaking out. She's like, what do I do? Do I go to the hospital? Is this normal? I'm just like, let's just, if it's not painful, you can still just breathe, everything's good, you're just scared, I get it. This is its healing process. Your body is healing this area, whatever's going on in there. So I did 1 more session. I didn't see her for 2 weeks. She comes back, and she looked like an angel. She came into my clinic, super bright, smiling, tons of light back in her. And she looked me dead in the eyes, and she's like, it's a miracle. She's like, you saved my life. I just was breathless. I've never had anybody tell me that in my life, that, you saved my life. So she literally thought it was a miracle. She literally had 0 pain. And she booked the first trip down to her kids down south and had Christmas with them, and she could start singing at church that Christmas day. And she was just awesome, right? And so super non-invasive, super easy, and that helped her, right? And the fact that the Mayo Clinic, the biggest, best hospital system in the world, couldn't think of just shining some light on her jaw. It baffles me, right?
And this happens all the time. I had a friend who went to the Mayo Clinic with, I want to say a brain tumor, but he had a growth in his brain, and he passed out at work and had a whole bunch of issues. They found him on the ground. They brought him in. He had this mass in his brain. They brought him to the Mayo Clinic, and they did brain surgery, and he was 35 years old. And they gave him nothing to help out besides pain meds. And he had people bring him in butter, MCT oil, and red lights. The same thing you're saying, red and infrared lights. And he brought all this stuff in, and they said he recovered faster than anyone they've ever seen. They didn't know how he did it. And of course, they don't want to know how he did it either. So he has the same thing. He's trying to start this business now called Find Me Care to help people figure out how to recover from the medical system. So even if you go into the medical system for emergency surgery like he needed, how do you recover? Because they won't teach you that, and they almost don't want to know. So I love that. I love that story. That is powerful medicine.
Yeah. So beyond that, somebody who wants specific help, and there's other ABC providers out in the country, you just go to meningealrelease.com, and there's a whole provider map, so you can find like a near ABC provider near you, or fly out to Minneapolis and come out and see me. But
People come from all over to see Travis. I'll tell you, like hours away.
Yep. But specifically the person that has like scoliosis, the person that has like a neurodegenerative condition, multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. There's a lot of cool new things that we can kind of do for those people. And we didn't even get into the cranial fascial release treatment, but that's another reason why those individuals will want to come seek this treatment. But the person that has been adjusted their whole lives and still feels like there's something missing, right? That, if you like your chiropractor, great. Like, keep seeing them. You feel results. Awesome. If you are somebody's like, I just feel like I'm in a revolving door. I just feel like I'm not getting any better. That's not right. Like, you should really be feeling progress as the months go on. You should be getting to a place where you are feeling great. And then you can just do like a once a month, every other week, kind of a wellness plan just to maintain. Okay. All of these, you hear you have to, once you see a chiropractor, you have to see him for the rest of your life. Okay, how many times do you change the oil in your car, right? Go back to that whole concept, right? Like, you're going to change the oil in your car so it doesn't break down, okay? It's just a health and wellness technique. If you're not going to move your body, then you're going to have to pay somebody to do it for you, okay? So that's where we are in American society right now. People just do not move enough, and we do not move correctly, okay? So if you're not going to do that, then have somebody move your body for you. So again, any individual who has like really poor posture, ABC is like the ticket for posture correction. Disc bulges, disc herniations, all the common stuff too. But I really like those neuro kind of, this is a big one, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's a collagen hyperflexibility disease. It's a genetic kind of mutation some people will have. You'll know because you're just super hyperflexible, double jointed. Those individuals do not necessarily want to get adjusted, okay? Because they're already hypermobile. They don't need movement. They need actual fascial release. And that's where the ABC really does good with these individuals. I got a huge population that specifically only do ABC because they have this hyperflexibility, and it's the only thing that helps their symptoms. And these people, they know they got weird symptoms. They got like tingly behind the head, their eyes kind of shake. They got zinging pain like through their body. It's a really odd thing that they experience. And then another one that's kind of related to the Ehlers-Danlos is the Arnold Chiari malformation. So we did the video, that YouTube video that we sent out with that individual who had that. He was a special individual, but he had the Arnold Chiari malformation, which is like a brainstem disorder where it's lower than your skull. So you don't want to adjust their necks because you're going to be affecting neurological tissue you don't really want to be adjusting. But ABC would be a really good candidate for that person too. So if you are an individual who have those conditions, for sure seek out an ABC provider or myself and just feel the difference if you are currently seeing a chiropractor, just so you can have the comparison at least.
Nice. Okay, and then where can people find you?
So you can find me hudsonspineandhealth.com. We got Instagram, we got Facebook as well. You can just type that in. You can email us, hudsonspineandhealth@gmail.com. Call the office, 715-808-0723. And we will soon be having some more platforms, being more, consistent content. So we'll have YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, the whole thing. So stay tuned.
So check out hudsonspineandhealth.com or on Facebook or Instagram. And that's Hudson, like the Hudson. We are in Hudson, Wisconsin. Every time I type in Hudson, sometimes I get Hudson, New York coming up, and I'm from New York, near the Hudson River. So I always get confused. I'm like, nope, I'm in the wrong place. So I hope all of you will join us on the other side of the membership and become members, because we're going to get into some really cool stuff in this next part of the podcast. We didn't even get into the craniofacial release. We didn't get into longevity and the lymphatic system and, Travis's life as a practitioner and how he keeps himself healthy, knowing everything he knows. What does Dr. Travis do? I think you're all going to be, and I'm interested in that too, because we all can get better. So I hope all of you got from this episode that we want to provide for ourselves a way of being an adult by taking control or owning our own health. And in order to do that, you are not going to be the expert on everything health related. You're going to be the expert on you. And you know what's going on in your body. And then you have a whole system of experts around you to help you figure out, based on what's going on, what do you need at that time. And so as you start building that list of experts, I guarantee you finding an ABC practitioner or coming here to work with Dr. Travis is a huge benefit. I thought I knew a ton of stuff, and I've been studying for 20 years. I have a master's in holistic nutrition. I studied, biohacking. I did all this self-experimentation. I studied all this research. I studied with a neurosurgeon, and I'm still learning things from Travis and others that I have around me. It is so critically important. So thanks everyone for joining. I hope you join us on the other side of the membership where we get to talk about some really cool stuff that we don't always talk about in public. So we'll catch up on that next side. Until then, everybody.
If you want to be a corporate escape artist, head on over to howtoescapecorporate.com and sign up for the How to Escape Corporate Without Leaving Your Job course. Learn the exact methods to go from employee to entrepreneur. Turn your corporate existence into a corporate wonderland. It's time to take action. howtoescapecorporate.com. Remember, members get the full-length podcast over at howtoescapecorporate.substack.com. Become a member for $8 a month for the full podcast and members-only articles and videos.